And that's us live. It's me and Alan tonight. I know Michael's usually on. Don't be disappointed because I'll try and bring the best I can, and I'm sure Alan can make up for it because Graham's not here as well. But it's great to be joined by you, Alan. It's good to be on.
Aye, much appreciated for having me. Obviously, big game tonight, big opportunity, and unusually, the negative storylines are coming from the away side in Europe, or uh, the side the Scottish team are facing. So, big game, big opportunity, and excited.
Yeah, Alan. I'm just going to bring the viewers and the listeners of the show the Celtic team, and you can react to it. So we've got Schmeichel's playing, Johnson's at right back, Vickers, Trusty, Taylor, McGregor, Bernardo, Rio Hitati, Nicholas Kuhn, Maeda, and Kyogo. Alan, what's your reaction to that Celtic starting team there?
It's a very strong lineup, very strong lineup. Loads of pace there. I think there was some questions going to be about would he rest anybody ahead of the weekend, given that they're in a kind of positive position in the Champions League already. But I think he's shown there that he's gone out with a strong squad. I think one of the areas that we're probably looking at. I mean, obviously Taylor's been under a bit of criticism, but he's come up and done quite well in the last couple of games. So to see Taylor start ahead of Valle, that's maybe an interesting one. And obviously Engels is on the bench as well. So, to be honest, it's a strong lineup. And I think I honestly feel like Celtic will smell blood.
I am, and I think the interesting one with that was Bernardo's in for Engels. Why do you think Brendan Rodgers has went with Bernardo instead of Engels?
It could be. It could just be the pressure. I mean, he's had a couple of poorer games lately. A lot of times people have sort of highlighted that he's actually flagged up as maybe being good at the start of a game, like the Leipzig game, for example, and then fading out a little bit. So it could just be it's not an easy journey to Zagreb. It's a difficult place to go to. It's maybe just taking him out of the limelight for a wee bit because he did have a good game against Hibs. Obviously got his goal, picked up a booking as well. So it might just be to give him a wee bit of rest, bring him on later. But I think it's a strength as well. I mean, Bernardo's not a bad player. Not a bad player. So they'll not have any worries about him.
And, and remember, the people that are viewing and watching the show, you can send in your comments, you can interact with me and Alan through the show. I'll be on for the next for 45 minutes to talk through Celtic as well. So please get in touch and talk to us as well. Alan, I want to ask you about Celtic as well. Do you think this Champions League format sort of favoured the Scottish teams because of the fact there's got a table there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. There's no denying that the old format with one team for each pot, it was a big challenge. It didn't give you much, and especially if Celtic are always a pot four, very occasional pot three team, it's a massive challenge. So to have more competition of the level around you and below, we'll not get away from it. Some of the teams that Celtic have played, Slovan Bratislava, were not a patch on Celtic. So being able to play these teams and build confidence, obviously you might end up getting a Dortmund, but the good thing is they've reacted to those really well. And ultimately, that varied level of competitions enabling them to, properly get stuck into it. So it's been brilliant.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, Alan, in terms of like the Scottish clubs, we don't tend to do really that well in Europe. But what do you think the biggest difference is for Celtic this year that they've really changed in that in terms of really changing the dynamic in terms of trying to really do well in Europe?
I do feel like the groundwork was laid during Postecoglou's first and second season. Obviously, they didn't get the results, and naturally, one of the ways to, if you were to ever criticise that reign, was in terms of Europe. Postecoglou left his cell too open. I mean, I remember watching the Real Madrid game at Celtic Park and how promising that was, and how you thought they might get a result, and ultimately came unfounded. But I think that kind of showed Celtic that couple of years showed that they can play really well in attacking aspects. But what they've done this year, especially in advance of last year, is learn. And I think we all saw that when they got beat off Dortmund, it was going to be, all right, there you go, first big team, battered, that's it. Nothing else is going to happen. But Atalanta are challenging. I think that they might even be top now in Serie A. A brilliant side who I loved watching last year under an excellent manager. And Celtic played the game. They learned their lessons. They went across there. They got the draw, which is a brilliant result. And that just shows the growth. So I think it's the ability to learn. But let's not get away from it. This Celtic team, the quality in this team and the technicality in this team is really, really good. And it's maybe, I mean, I know O'Reilly and stuff, that nobody's going to discredit him, but they've upgraded in a lot of areas. And they look, in those moments when they get on it on those big European nights, they can pass the ball around and make something magic happen. And I mean, we saw it against Hibs. We saw the goal. Everybody's been doing replays of Furahashi's goal. I mean, what do you think of that? That was a magical goal.
Yeah, I mean, that goal, you mean the goal at the weekend at Celtic Park, Alan?
Aye. Yeah. Just the quality.
Yeah, it was a great goal. And I think Gilgo's got the big moments in him. He really has. I mean, I know what people say, he's probably been the best Celtic striker since Larsson. I tend to disagree. I think it's been Dembele, but Kyogo's has been right up there, and that's down to Ange Postecoglou's brilliant recruitment of him, because he obviously seen him firsthand in Japan, and he recommended him to Dominic, who was the chief executive at the time. So, what are you asking, Alan, in terms of like Brendan Rodgers? He spoke about before about the strength and depth of the squad. I think for me that is the biggest difference of why Celtic can compete in the European this season. Is that one thing for you as well?
It has to be taken into consideration, because they have got strength and depth. I mean, you look at that now all over the park. I mean, people are going to say there's obvious weaknesses, whether it might be a right back, obviously goalkeeper, and maybe I've heard mentioned about the wings as well. But I think if you look at that Celtic bench for tonight, there's some of the guys on that can come off. Just going through the name, I mean, you look at guys like McCowan, who's beginning to have an impact now and being a big player. He's now able to come off, and you're looking at him going, actually, he can create something when he comes off. But then you've got natural talents like Engels, who can come into this level and slip in. And then you've got guys like Palma, obviously Adam Ida, clinical finisher. So if he comes on, he offers something completely different. You can change the game a little bit. And then you can go further down and obviously go through the rest of the subs. Then bring on James Forrest. And obviously James Forrest is the one that done the dink through for Furuhashi to get the goal. Put the ball into his feet. So I think having that depth there, it just means that if something's not quite gone right, you can change it. Or alternatively, if stuff is going right, you can keep up that intensity. And I think that's one of the issues with a lot of sides, especially playing those 2 games a week. And obviously Celtic, it'll be really interesting tonight to see how they manage the game. Because I guess maybe what you want is you want them to go out and take a 2-goal lead, ideally a 3-goal lead, very quickly, then shut the game down, make the subs early, keep everybody fresh for the weekend. That's an ideal scenario. And obviously you're away in Europe. That's never a given. It's never a given. But there's no mistake tonight that Dinamo Zagreb, I think, only have 15 senior players available. Right? They're in a bit of a results crisis and an injury crisis. So there's every chance that their fans are going to start the game against them. So Celtic can get down their throats immediately, get a goal. Oh, that's going to be a difficult place for Zagreb to come back from.
I want to ask you, Alan, because I was reading some quotes the other day. It was Brendan Rodgers again that said that James Forrest is the best presser of a ball that he's worked with as his time as a manager. Obviously, that's a big thing for James Forrest, pressing down the ball. But I think those are big quotes for Brendan Rodgers to say about James Forrest. I mean, think of the players that Brendan Rodgers has worked with as a manager. What was Steven Gerrard, Luis Suarez, Jimmy Vardy, James Madison. He's with so many players, and he picked out James Forrest as the player that runs and presses as much as anybody else that he's trained with.
It's a difficult one because there's the part of us have to kind of be realistic where we go, right, is he saying that because he's working with them now? If you had them all lined up together, would he be top? I don't know. I mean, even in that team, I would actually argue that Maeda does more. But that's just me. And obviously, a lot of time, a lot of people might view Maeda and go, aye, but he's very fast and he presses, but sometimes he presses the wrong player or the wrong place, or it's kind of misdirected a bit. But in terms of like pure, raw Duracell battery energy and ability to press, I can't look past Maeda. So even for him to say Forrest in that Celtic team currently, that's a big statement. So obviously he sees him. I think what you'll get with Forrest is you've got a seasoned pro who knows how to play the system under Rodgers because he's done it so many times, and he's also a worker and he's having to fight to get a place in this team. So he's probably he's listening to more than anybody else, and he's pushing harder than anybody else because he's having to force his way and work harder to get into this very, very good Celtic team. So that's maybe what he's seeing. And ultimately, when you see performances like last week, and a few other appearances he's made this season, you're looking at it going, he's an asset now rather than a guy going, oh, right, well, we just release him at the end of the year. Is that his time done? He's definitely an asset now.
Aye, and I just want to ask you, Alan, in terms of like the players on the bench, I know you've spoken about a few of them, but who's the one there that you see really coming on there? And if Brendan Rodgers has to call upon somebody in the last 20 minutes, who's the one player that you would choose to be on there?
I think it's a really good question because there is a couple there, and you're like, if you're wanting something to happen, if you're losing 1-0 and you need somebody to do something, I mean, you're either switching the striker and bringing Ida on, but you're probably bringing Forrest on. That's the state of play. Because if you bring on Palmer, I don't think that's the same level. If you bring on Engels, he's a brilliant player. He's had a couple of pops for Celtic, but he's a couple of goals. But your game changer, as an Ida or a Forrest.
Aye, and I think in terms of like Celtic, Alan, I mean, obviously you're talking about what they're doing in Scotland and stuff like that. But I think a big thing for Celtic support, Alan, is that they've wanted to do stuff in Europe for a very long time. Do you think this finally might be the year that they qualify for a knockout game? Because it was something that I mentioned to Graham maybe 2 years ago that they've not won a knockout match since season 2003-4 season, and that's still something that rankles with Celtic supporters. And if you listen to the AGM, it's something that they point out to Peter Lawwell that he's been in charge for them, and Celtic have not won a knockout match in European football.
Aye. I think that has to be the goal. Because it's not happened, it has to be the goal. I think there does have to be a little bit of context in that, and I guess it's hard for anybody to really say, is this format easier? I wouldn't say it's easier, but I do think in terms of the minimum number of points required and the quality of teams you'll play to get those number of points, the format does make it slightly easier, in my opinion. And I think that they have to take advantage of that. You can only play the competition you're in, and I think they need to get the results, which wouldn't be a bad one to get a win tonight. I think a draw would be not bad, but I think they need to try and win tonight, and then get their sell in. And if they can get in automatically into that, was it top 8?
Yeah,
very possible, very, very possible. If they can get straight in there, and that in itself is a massive success. I think I saw a stat earlier that says that Celtic have got a better goal difference than I think it was like PSG, Man City, and someone else all together. And Real Madrid, and they've been beaten 7-1 in a game. So it's like how? So obviously they've had some really good results. So I'm hoping what we see tonight. I mean, look at that lineup. That's going to be an attacking game. And I do wonder whether it's going to be get a goal early, kill the game early, and then it allows them to kind of settle in and hopefully look at the weekend a bit more. Obviously, it's Champions League. Dinamo Zagreb, they're in a bit of a poor run at the moment. Not an awful run, but I think it's maybe like 5 games without a win. They recovered quite well after being humbled by Bayern Munich. So they've had their own story and sort of semi-recovered from it. But yeah, I definitely think aye, the format's been really good for Celtic. Take advantage of it, win the games, and get yourself in the knockouts.
And I don't know if you agree, Alan, but I think because Celtic have got Zagreb tonight, and then I guess the young boys of Bern at Celtic Park next. These are two matches that Celtic really target because the last match they're playing away to Aston Villa. So these are two games. These are two games that you can really target to try and get 4 points.
Aye, absolutely. No, they are, and that's it. It's now at the business end. It's now at a stage to look at it and go, right, what do we need to get to where we want to go, and how confident we're feeling. And the way they've been playing, there's no reason to feel anything other than I would say minimum 4, but you have to aim for the stars. I think you have to aim for 6, and then just see where that takes you. Obviously, you have to get through tonight. And if you are that better team in Europe, tonight's the night to show that. Go to Zagreb, get a good result in Zagreb, because it's not a brilliant stadium to go to. In terms of the fans, I think I was there with Scotland, obviously in October, and one of the stands was closed, and you're quite far away from the pitch, so the support have to do an awful lot to create an atmosphere. And I'm very sure that the Zagreb fans they're close at the pitch, so they'll try and make an atmosphere. And so those early stages of quietening that crowd will be really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, you're taking me back to about 2 or 3 years ago when Spurs played there and they got beat 2 or 3-0, and Jose Mourinho was the manager. So I know you're saying that Zagreb might be in bad form in that, but Zagreb have got their moments as well, and they can really show up against top level opposition.
Yeah, they definitely can. But I think that's the thing with the Champions League. It's you have to assume that most teams have the ability on their night to kind of turn up and put in a performance and just be sensible to that. Now, I think the challenge for Celtic will be they've obviously conceded quite a few chances against Hibs at the weekend, so it's about tightening that up a wee bit and saying, right, we didn't want to give them as many. But obviously, Champions League teams are probably going to play they're probably going to play even more expansive than Hibs did, especially with them being at home. So it's about keeping it compact and using guys like Kuhn to break on the counter, and then their smart passing, intelligent balls, exploiting space, and getting a goal. And I think that's the thing. I think if Zagreb concede first, I do think they'll go into a bit of shock and think, oh no, here we go again. And in that Celtic team, with the confidence that's flown through them, as soon as they get one and they smell blood, that'll be it. I think Celtic will just absolutely run riot, because I just can't see a situation where they wouldn't. However, if the game goes to half time 0-0, or even Zagreb pick up a goal, it'll be interesting to see how buoyed they are. And then it's a case of Celtic, right, okay, this has happened, how do we react to it? And then, as we say, we've got the options off the bench later on.
I think that's a great point you make, and I think we want to go back to something that Brendan Rodgers was talking about the other day. He was talking about not being too expansive. I think it's important as well that Celtic don't be too expansive, because it's okay being expansive in Scottish football, no disrespect to the standard, but Celtic are able to play with the ball more. But see, when you play in European football, or you play for Scotland national team, it's about choosing your moments and wasting time at the right point, and you just try to get the team up the park and get throw-ins and get free kicks. Sometimes when you go away in Europe, it's not about trying to play your style. It's about getting through.
Aye. No, it is. It is, and I think when you're talking about getting through and you're looking at your strengths and the opponent's weaknesses and stuff, what they've got tonight is a Zagreb team. As you say, they're on a bad run of form. Lost a fair few games. I think they've no won in 5, and then the one before that was against Slovan Bratislava. They've barely scored. So I think in their last 4 games, the only guy to score is Kachavenda, a midfielder, and that's the only goal. So they're a team low on morale, struggling to score. Obviously, they got beat 3-0 by Dortmund, which wasn't as bad, but it's still a defeat. And obviously, in the league against obviously rivals like Hajduk Split and stuff, they've lost games. So they've had damaging results, which they are. This is the kind of exact kind of team you want if you're going to play away in Europe. You want to play a team low on morale. And I think that these are the situations that Celtic really, really do have to exploit. And this is a way you show growth. You show actually we're a better team. We've gone to this European team, and we've done a number on them, and that's we've put ourselves in a really good position.
Alan, I appreciate you coming on, and I thank you for your time. But just lastly, what do you make of this weekend? Big game, Celtic and Rangers. I don't know if we'll have you on before that on Friday, but what's your take on the big match on Sunday?
Massive game. I think Clement's comments about the money disparity, I mean, that was just, I don't know where he's coming from with that. There is a budget gap, but Rangers just played Ross County. I mean, if you want to talk about budgets, I don't know what the deal is there. So I'm almost looking at this going, have Rangers mentally already given in? And I think it's also going to come off tonight. I think if Celtic have a really positive result and they're able to get some of their key players off ahead of the weekend, it'll be really interesting. But also, Rangers have a massive game against Spurs, and that's when you play Spurs. It's when you play, or you know yourself, when you play an Ange Postecoglou side, you end up tired. So how do Rangers play that? Do they play a full squad? I think what will happen is it's really cool to see the weekend's game isn't dictating the narratives at the moment. It's going to be these two games in midweek are massive. And as soon as this Celtic game's finished tonight, all eyes on Rangers, obviously Hearts as well. But I'm not really seeing Hearts getting a result in Copenhagen. I think it's the Petro Cup game that Hearts really need to get the result in. So I'm really looking at the Rangers-Spurs game and seeing how fatigued and how they come out of that game. Because if they get battered 6-0, that's a problem mentally going into a Celtic game. If they get a good result, they've probably had to fight tooth and nail for it, and they'll be tired. So I'm excited for the game. I think what you spoke about in terms of the depth at Celtic, I do think that's going to be a deciding factor at the weekend. If I was to hedge my bets, I would say that it's going to be a Celtic win and a slightly rotated squad, and it's going to be the fresher team that gets the result, and also Celtic get that extra couple of days rest as well. So I do think that's all in Celtic's favour. But Old Firm game, there is that moment of sort of anything can happen.
I mean, Alan, how do you see Sunday going? Have you got a prediction there? Because like you said, Celtic squad strength, I think the only way that Celtic don't win this match is if they get a red card for me, or something happens with VAR. Because for me, Celtic have just got the far superior squad, and also like you said there as well, Alan, you made a good point about the manager. The manager's not saying the best comments when he's talking about Celtic are way out of league and Spurs are way out of league. You know, he's not putting the self belief, but the self confidence in the players at a very good level.
Yep. No, that's it. And I think you're right. I think you're on the right lines. I think there's too much. I mean, you look at the night. They're not starting Engels. There's players there to come off the bench that you can start. I mean, if Kyogo absolutely buries himself the night, I can't imagine him doing so. I think he's probably going to come off after 60. But you've got a fresh Ida at the weekend, and Ida can damage Rangers without the need for a Kyogo. So I think there is far too much strength there. And I think the other thing with what he said about the financial gap and stuff, belief is massive, and belief comes from the top down. And if you don't believe you can get a result, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. So anything other than we're going into this game to win, and you have to look at the manager and go, what are you doing? Like, your players can watch that and they can switch off. Whereas if you're going, we're going to win this game, everybody's putting in that extra 0.5% in training to try and win that game and do everything they can. So I think he's giving them a cop-out. It's a protection, naturally, because he probably knows he's going to get beat. But you never give yourself that chance. And that's the shame in it.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, what do you mean a Falkirk? Because they stretched the lead on Saturday because David Martindale's side drew.
Yeah. No, I was going to go to the game, but I had a Christmas party, and so I watched it on the TV, and I was buzzing, and I was watching that Livy score, thinking just stay 0-0, stay 0-0, because this is the stage now. So our issue so far this season is we're not able to beat Livy. We drew 0-0 at the Falkirk Stadium, we had a goal disallowed, and then obviously we got beat 1-0 by a worldie of a goal at Livingston. So we've not managed to get a result over them yet, because Martindale knows how to play negative football. He knows how to curb a team who try to play football. They're tall, they're physical, but what they've shown is that he still, despite being in the Championship, doesn't play attacking football, and he doesn't want to score goals. Or if he does, he's not actually putting the team out to try and do that. So I think if we're looking at now ways to win the league, I think it's going to come from just keep doing what we are doing, keep getting the results. If we play Livy and we didn't beat them all season, that's fine, because Livy have shown that they'll drop points. And the only times that Falkirk will drop points, and it's been shown to be the case, is if we're not taking chances. And I mean, there's games there. Obviously, we've beaten Morton 6-0, beat Airdrie by a couple, could have been much more. Beat Wraith 3, could have been 5. Where we're putting goals and creating loads of opportunities for ourselves. And unless every player just went off form, you can't say that's ever going to stop. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, what if injuries come into it?" And you're like, "We've had injuries. We've got injuries. We lost Carl Donaldson, our centre back. We lost Sean Mackey, our left back. We lost McKeever, our striker. They were all out together for a period of time, and we beat Morton 6-0. So like it's shown that we've, like, talk about Celtic, talk about the Championship. We've not got a massive squad, but what we've got is strength and depth in the right positions. And I think if we've got another striker coming in January, we just released Ryan Shanley, mutual consent. I don't know where he's away to. We got him from Edinburgh City, and we've got a striker coming in from Heriot-Watt University, younger guy but looks dead strong. He's already scored for us in the Stirlingshire Cup, which was resurrected. So he's coming in. So I think if we potentially strengthen somewhere else in January as well, because this is all unbudgeted. We budgeted for 5th. And that the chairman's come out and say that, Jamie Swinney. So if we're budgeted for 5th, and it's looking increasingly likely that we'll finish 1st or 2nd, then there's maybe scope there to bring a player in. And obviously, McGlynn's good pals with Rodgers. So if Palmer's not playing for you, then we'll take him for a couple of weeks.
I think that's a good point, Alan. So now that you're 8 points clear, are you confident that you possibly maybe could start dreaming of getting to the Premiership?
I think it's definitely too early. So that 8 point gap, for context, Livy have a game in hand, so that could be a 5 point gap. And then obviously we've still got to play Livy twice more this season. So if they win both those games, it's a swing. But to have a gap at this stage is brilliant. Is absolutely brilliant. And I think what we'll want to do is we'll strive to build on that gap. And I think if we can get through the period's going to be, what will be interesting for me and interesting for anybody watching the league is Livy are the relegated team. They'll want to get back up right away. They've come down. I think if you're relegated in the Premier League, you still end up with like 1.4 million revenue. We got 200 grand for getting promoted from League One. So they've got 1.2 million over us in terms of budget. So it'll be interesting to see come January if they go, actually, we've not got enough, we need to invest, and they bring somebody in. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on Livy's transfer window and see, because that will give you the opinion of how they feel. And if they don't bring anybody in, I think that's dangerous for Livy, because they need to. I think they need a goal scorer. And I think so for us, keep doing what we're doing. If we're bringing in this new striker, maybe shoring up a couple of positions. I think the most damaging thing feasibly for us is that Graham, who we've got on loan for Dundee, he's been playing absolutely brilliantly. And Dundee asked him to be left out of the East Kilbride Cup game, which means that Dundee might want to bring him in to their squad with an injury, because I think they got an injury at centre-back. So if he does go back to Dundee, hopefully we're still waiting on Donaldson getting back fit. So we will be down a centre-back. And that's a potential issue. But other than that, buzzing, man. Buzzing. Starting to dream.
Joe, other thing I can think of as a Falkirk fan that might be a disappointment is maybe the possibility that someone might take your manager.
To be honest with you, I'm not too worried about that just now, because I think we've had a couple of vacancies in the summer and this season, and nothing's happened yet. I think the only thing that would make him consider moving would be if one of two things happened. If we didn't get promoted this year, but then lost a lot of the core squad, I think that would be a case of, right, okay, he'll move on if something comes up. But he came out in an interview and said he's got ambitions to manage in the Premier League, but he wants to do it with Falkirk. And I mean, we had actually, as a club, we'd set an ambition to be back in by our 125th or 150th anniversary, which like might be 2027 or something. We're way ahead of schedule. And we all looked at it and thought that was ambitious. We're like, no, we're never going to be back in the Premiership by then. But now, obviously, it's looking like we might be back in 2025. So that I think he said he's keen to stay, and then we can take it from there. But nah, in terms of McGlynn going, I thought the potential one was Hearts because he'd been there before. But when they got Critchley, I was like, there's nowhere else he's going to go.
Yeah, and just before you need to go, I mean, you got a prediction for this weekend first, and then I'll ask you about the Zagreb match to
Aye.
5:45.
Aye. So I'm just checking there. So we've got away to Ayr this weekend, Saturday 3:00. Ayr, when the last time we played them away, we were in the cup and we lost 1-0 down in Ayr. But we lost 1-0 to an Anton Dowds goal, and Anton Dowds is out for the season. So they've been playing with George Oakley and they've been really struggling to do very much. And it's been excellent to see Scott Brown go mental in all his interviews, because I think he had a brilliant start this season. Brown, he's shown he's a good manager, but also they did get quite a bit of investment. There's a bit of money flowing around there with new stadium and investing in the squad. I think as quite understandably, they kind of looked at the league and thought this was maybe our season, invested in the squad for it, but then they've kind of been sucker punched with a couple of the key injuries. I mean, Dowds, we had him at Falkirk. We loaned him up a league to Arbroath. I was at Partick, and he was brilliant. And then he's ended up at Ayr. Very accomplished striker, scored a lot of goals at the start of the season, and then they lose him for the year. So that's unlucky, and you wouldn't wish that on anybody apart from Ayr. So it's. I think the game this weekend, it'll be another good one, another tough one. But the way we're creating chances, I'd hope that we can maybe get a 2-1 win, maybe a 3-1 win. That's my prediction for the Falkirk game. So I'll go for the more conservative. I'll say 2-1 Falkirk.
Okay, Alan, and on Sunday, Celtic Rangers play. Have you got a prediction for that one?
Yeah, I think it will be 3-0 Celtic. 3-0. I mean, it's like you say. I think if there's a penalty or a sending off or something, that's how Rangers will get into the game and get a goal. I think I just can't see them having the confidence. Mainly, like I think they've got the quality. I think they've got enough to bother Celtic. I just don't think they've got the confidence to.
And what about this match tonight, Alan? Just before I let you go, what do you think Celtic away to Zagreb?
Oh, tough one. Yeah, that first goal is going to be crucial because if Celtic get it, it could be anything. But I'll say 3-1 Celtic because I think they'll score first and then it'll end up a bit of a riot and then Zagreb might nick one back. That's what I think it'll be. Watch this. It'll be an absolute mad game at 4 each or something.
Okay, Alan. Thanks very much for your time.
Always appreciate coming on and aye, good luck tonight. Cheers.
And don't forget, Alan. We're back on at 10. So if you're about, you're welcome to come on, mate.
Perfect. Much appreciated. Take care, man.
Take care. And it was great to hear from Alan there. Yeah, so Celtic are playing at 5:45 over in Croatia. it's great to have so many of you on, and like I think that the next big thing we need to speak about is hopefully that Brendan Rodgers' new contract. If you're not of a Celtic persuasion, because I think Brendan Rodgers is doing a fantastic job as a Celtic manager, and I think that's a priority for Celtic in the near future as well. But for people that have just joined us, I'll run you through the Celtic lineup for tonight. Schmeichel, Johnson, Vickers, Trusty, Taylor, McGregor, Bernardo, Rio Hatate, Nicholas Kuhn, Maeda, and Kyogo. I think that's a great lineup from a Celtic point of view. I think as well, like Alan was saying about 5 minutes ago, I think the fact that they've not won in 5 matches as well is going to be crucial because their fans are not going to be on side with them, and also the fact that obviously as Graham was talking about before, the fact that Zagreb have not won in a while, that could surely play into Celtic's hands. And just like that, Graham appears. It's great to have you on, Graham. Cheers for jumping on.
Sorry, mate. I saw that Alan had gone, so I thought I would not leave you on your own.
I know. Thank you for doing that, Graham. Obviously, I mentioned the Celtic team. What do you make of it, Graham?
I mean, it just goes to show the Celtic strength and depth. You can obviously take out Engels, bring in Bernardo, and it doesn't weaken Celtic. I think they look very, very strong. The bench is looking very strong. We've got 12 players on it. It's a very strong Celtic team. Probably no other surprises in there. Pretty much the team I thought Rodgers would go with. It's very strong. And I've said it a couple of days ago when they did the show on Sunday. I think Celtic will win this game. Zagreb are not looking that great. They're not on a great run. You know, they've not won in the last 5 games. The home record's not great. I can definitely see Celtic getting something for this game.
Aye, and obviously, Graham, I think the fact that Celtic have got a very good number one as well, that helps because away in European football, Graham, you need a top shot stopper as well.
You do, and I have said it previously that I think Schmeichel's an upgrade on Joe Hart. No, don't get me wrong, Joe Hart was a fantastic goalkeeper, but Kasper Schmeichel is so like his father, it's unreal. All you've got to do is look at the game against Hibs. You know, he made himself big for the couple of saves that he made from Kucherevich. He's a really good goalkeeper, and he might be busy tonight, but he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and he will definitely help. I think he's been great for Celtic, and you know, he's such a good goalkeeper, vast experience, and you know, if he's called upon tonight, I've got no doubt he will do a very good job because he's a very good goalkeeper.
I don't know if you're aware, Graham, but Brendan Rodgers mentioned at his media conference on Monday that Celtic have got the option to extend and make Kasper Schmeichel a brand new offer of a new 1-year contract. Do you think that'll be something that Celtic will try and do over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think if you've got the option to take it, he's such a good goalkeeper. You know, who else do you bring in to replace him? I know you've got Sinisalo on the bench, but he's a young goalkeeper. I think you need that experience, and that's someone that's been there and done it. And I think if you get the option to take that offer, I think you do it. And I think Schmeichel would accept it. You know, I think he looks like he's enjoying his time at Celtic. He looks quite happy there. He's got that kind of settled defence in front of him now with Carter Vickers and Trusty. Alistair Johnson as well, who I think has been really good. So, yeah, I definitely think that if the option is there, I think Celtic have to take it, and I think Schmeichel would accept it.
And I was asking Alan this earlier, but why do you think Celtic are doing so well in Europe now compared to the past few seasons?
I think it's experience. I think it's also the fact that Brendan Rodgers has learned lessons from past games. You know, you look at the Dortmund game where they got absolutely ripped apart, and then he changed it up the next game against Atalanta, and they were far more solid defensively. Now, if we go back to the Bruges game, I thought Bruges were great. I did the show that night, and I thought Bruges were very impressive. Far better than what I expected, but Celtic kept themselves in the game. I think he has definitely learned lessons now. He's not going as gung-ho. But you look at that Celtic team and they've got options there today. You've got Kuhn, Maeda and Kyogo. That front three is going to be huge for them. So I just think it's a case of getting that more experience and just the fact that I think Rodgers is learning as he's going. And you've got to look at the league table now. You know, Celtic are only 2 points off that top 8. And they've got a very good chance of going through. And I think you'll beat I think Celtic will beat Young Boys as well. So I think after tonight and the Young Boys game, that Aston Villa game will mean nothing because Celtic have qualified. And I said that for the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of Celtic, Graham, I think it's just experience, like you said there. And I think as well, the players have became a lot more self-aware that they can really do well at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you do have the experience like Carter Vickers there. You've got Callum McGregor, who I think has been, again, fantastic for Celtic. He's such a leader in that team, as we all know. They are learning. You know, I think those Celtic players now are definitely learning lessons. They're getting that experience. And that's a big, big help. And I think against Zagreb tonight, like I said, that are not looking particularly great. They've not won at home since the 28th of September. Celtic can go there tonight. And I kind of listened to Alan earlier. You know, if Celtic can score the first goal, it would put that seeded out in Zagreb. And I genuinely think Celtic could win this game. I think we come back on later on. I think Celtic will have got something out of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of Celtic, I mean, I said to Alan as well that I think this table format has really helped the Scottish teams as well. When you look at even Hearts, I was asking you on Friday if Hearts got a genuine chance of going through, and it's only a good thing if like Rangers are sitting fourth in the Europa, Hearts are looking to go through as well, and obviously Celtic as well. So it's looking good for the Scottish teams.
Yeah, I like the format. I said it previously. I really do enjoy the format. The fact you're playing different teams home and away, I think it's really good. And Celtic and Rangers have definitely both got a chance of going through. You know, as bad as Tottenham have been, as we spoke about on Sunday, Rangers are in a really good position. Hearts, it's difficult because Copenhagen, I heard Alan as well, and I kind of agree. I don't think we'll get anything from Copenhagen. You know, they're the top seeds that we drew. That's going to be very tough. But I had earmarked the Petrol Cup game as the one I think we can win. We win that, getting 9 points. I think we're probably through. But yeah, I mean, it's great for all the Scottish clubs. We want all of them to go through and play football after Christmas. It would be fantastic, probably for the first time in a while. So yeah, it would be great. And I genuinely do like the format. I know a few folk have said, oh, it's not that great. I disagree. I think the format has been very good. And I said that last week. Look at Celtic, who are currently sitting 20th. Look at Real Madrid. They're 24th. Celtic are ahead of Madrid. You wouldn't have seen that in the group stage, I don't think. So, yeah, I think it's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, the only bad thing is that if Celtic they keep progressing, then potentially they could face Real Madrid, and you probably hope to be facing a whole lesser team than Real Madrid if you're Celtic. But the only thing I can say, Graham, is it's great to have Scottish teams really flying the flag, and like you said as well, we'll be looking forward to that World Cup drawing on Thursday or Friday, whenever it is. It's just great to have Scottish teams doing well, and because a lot of people they put down Scottish football and they talk about that in terms of the standard, but I think it's just great, and I think in terms of Hearts, like you're saying there, do you think now that Shankland's back scoring goals that can give you possibly more a chance on Thursday in Copenhagen?
I hope so, because it's very difficult. Copenhagen are 12 games unbeaten all competitions. It's going to be very difficult. There's a lot of Hearts fans there, which they're thoroughly enjoying. I kind of feel jealous. But yeah, I mean, I'm delighted that Shankland's back in the goal trail. I knew it would happen eventually. Hopefully goes on a run now. But he's suspended for the Kilmarnock game next week, which is a blow. But you could see, I said it on Sunday, you could see the confidence flood back to him after he got those 2 goals. He was trying things that he didn't do before. The confidence is definitely back. And I think he'll be looking forward to Thursday now. And actually, the rest might do him good. You know, after Thursday, he's got that suspension. That might actually do him good, you know, to have that bit of a break. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Thursday, with the fact that Shankland's back in form, there's a chance, but it's a very, very small chance because Copenhagen are a very, very good side. We're actually above them in the league phase, but not by much. It will be very difficult. I wouldn't be surprised if we got 3 or 4 taken off us, but I've always, like I said, earmarked that Petrol Cup game next week. That's a game that I think could get us through. And if we get through, it'll be the first time in our history we've managed to get through the Europe after Christmas, which would be brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point you make, Graham, in terms of like that. I mean, I said to Alan earlier, it's not all about Celtic really going there to Zagreb and getting the victory. Of course, it'd be good, but they've got a potentially more a more winnable match in the next match against the young boys of Bern at Celtic Park. So it's all about Celtic maybe trying to get a point tonight, and then if they get 3 points against the young boys of Bern, that would put them on 12 points.
Yeah, I mean, if Celtic get a result tonight, which I generally do think they will, I honestly think Celtic get a result tonight. But even if they didn't, you've got that game of youth young boys, which I think Celtic will definitely fancy at home. Celtic are a good side at home, we know that. So yeah, it gives them a very good chance to get through. Rangers, I think they'll probably get through as well. And it would just leave Hearts. If we could all get through, it would be fantastic for Scottish football. Like you said, and like we've all said, Scottish football gets a kicking at times. You know, Derek Adams wasn't a massive fan of it. But yeah, it does get a kicking at times. But, you know, it'd be great to see all Scottish teams get through to the knockout phase after Christmas. And there's no reason that Celtic can't go there tonight with massive, massive confidence. They're playing well. You know, they've got players that are in form. It's a big opportunity for Celtic tonight. And it's one that I think they'll take.
And I mean, Graham, I don't mean to put Zagreb down, but like you said, because they've not won in the last 5 matches, I think it is, Graham, that you said earlier, I think that can only breed confidence in the Celtic squad as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Zagreb won't be looking forward to this game. You know, they've got a Celtic team coming their own form. They've got players that can cause them problems, like Kuhn, like Maeda, like Kyogo. They've got a really good options there, Celtic. They can also bring guys like Pamanido off the bench. You know, Zagreb won't be fancying this in the run of form that they're on. So there's every opportunity for Celtic to get a result tonight. They will obviously have to be very wary because Zagreb will have a threat, but there's no reason that Celtic can't go there today and get a positive result. And the way that Celtic are playing, you know, you're looking at that team today and thinking, I mean, probably most of that team will start on Sunday against Rangers as well. There won't be any rest for them. So, I mean, Celtic have got 2 big games to come up here, starting tonight and then on Sunday. Big moments for Celtic. And I think, I've already said, I think they'll win on Sunday. But if they get a result tonight as well, that would be huge.
Yeah, Graham, I think you made a good point there because it's all about building the momentum for Celtic. Of course, people can say that Sunday's the most important, but it's so important that Celtic go in this in a good frame of mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to take every game at a time, and Celtic won't look any further than tonight. But obviously, everyone's looking forward to that game on Sunday and the first cup final, which is going to be huge. And a positive result tonight would take Celtic, you know, the momentum just builds. Winning breeds confidence. So does losing, of course, but winning breeds confidence, and Celtic have that winning feeling right now. They look very, very strong. They're not conceding a lot of chances or goals. So it's, you know, Celtic are looking very, very strong just now. And yeah, I really don't think Celtic will lose on Sunday. Tonight's massive, but like I say, I genuinely think Celtic can get a result tonight. Whether it's a draw, whether it's a win, I don't think they're going to leave Zagreb with nothing. I think they will get something out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you as well, Graham, but how important do you think that the attacking players with Celtic will be in terms of Maeda as well? Because he's got raw pace that can really get by players as well. That's something very, very important in Europe as well.
Yeah, there's one thing defenders hate, and it's pace playing against them. And Maeda's got that in abundance. He's had a very, very good season. And the one thing about Maeda is, you know, people talk about work rate. Maeda never stops running. His work rate is incredible. You can never switch off, because if you do, he'll be right on you. I think his work rate epitomises what Brendan Rodgers wants. Then you've got guys like Kuhn, who's had a really good season. Kyogo, maybe not quite as brilliant this season, but what a goal on Sunday. That was a fantastic goal, on Saturday. Really, really good finish. Great touch and great finish. So, yeah, I mean, that forward line of Celtic are going to cause a lot of problems. And then, you know, if you're tiring later on in the game, you're bringing on guys like Ida, bringing on even like James Forrest, that's still a threat. So it just goes to show the quality Celtic have got. But that front line is going to be huge tonight because defenders hate pace.
I was going to say, Graham, were you probably surprised that Adam Ida is not starting just because he played really well against Atalanta, and I think he's really good at holding the ball up. But that's something that Celtic really need in Europe. Or do you think because Zagreb are not in that good a form, Brendan Rodgers has seen that kind of pace, trying to get in behind their centre backs?
Yeah, I never really thought I would start. I always thought it was going to be Kyogo. You know, that work rate, that finishing touch he's got. But you do have the option of Ida to bring on. You know, he will be a massive, massive threat, like you say, can hold the ball up. But I think the work rate and the fact that Kyogo can get in behind, he plays on the shoulder. He's really difficult to pick up because his movement, like I said previously, is very, very impressive. It wasn't a surprise to me that he's starting tonight. I think he was always going to start, and I would not be surprised if he scores either.
Yeah, Graham, I asked Alan about the fact that Bernardo was picked ahead of Engels. In terms of Engels, he's done all that he could. He scored at the weekend. But were you surprised that Bernardo starts tonight?
Maybe a little bit. I don't think Engels has really done brilliantly this season, but he's still young. You know, maybe that £11 million price tag is a lot of money for him. Maybe that's what it is. But you're bringing on a guy like Bernardo, who's a very good player, you know, very good on the ball, very composed. He's got a really good passing range. He's strong as well. Maybe it's not a surprise that he comes in and gives Engels a rest. But again, you've got Engels to bring off the bench if you need something. It'll be great for Engels' confidence that he scored on Saturday. He didn't really celebrate it that much. But it'll be good for him that he's got that goal and maybe just takes a bit of pressure off. But you're bringing in Bernardo, who will just slot in there quite comfortably alongside McGregor and Hatate.
Yeah, Graham, I think that's a good point you make in terms of Brendan Rodgers has got so many options here now. Even if you look at the boy they brought in from Dundee, they've got Bernardo, they've got Engels, they've got so many good options here, Celtic.
You do. I mean, you've got 12 subs. I mean, pretty much every single one of those players on that bench gets in every other team in Scotland start 11. It's ridiculous. Even looking at like James Forrest, Ralston, Welsh, you've got players that can come on and they'll slot in quite comfortably. Celtic are very, very strong, which is why I've said previously that I think they'll go the season unbeaten. In Scotland, I don't see who takes points off them. Europe is different, of course it is. You're playing against better teams, better standard of quality. But you just look at how strong that Celtic squad is and that starting 11 is. And I just think as well, having Carter Vickers back is massive as well, because when he doesn't play, is a huge loss for Celtic because he's such a composed defender, taking away the goal against Bruges, of course. But he's a very, very good defender. And I think him and Trusty are a really good partnership.
So, Graham, if Celtic had to get a result tonight, who do you really see being the key to that?
I think there's a number of players, but I'm probably going to go for Kuhn. I think anytime I've seen him, he's looked really good. You know, he's quick. He's got that directness about him. He's really good in front of goal as well. I think he could cause a lot of problems tonight. So I'm going to go for Kuhn. I think will maybe be the standout tonight as well.
Yeah, and Graham, we're obviously just going to end it in 2 minutes' time, so I'll just get a prediction there for you. Celtic away to Zagreb in Croatia.
Yeah, I'm going to go Celtic to win this. I think it'll be Zagreb 0, Celtic 2.
I'm going to go Zagreb 1, Celtic 1.
I mean, a draw's not a bad result.
Yeah, I don't think it will be, Graham. So, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will see you again at 10 o'clock. Graham, are you going to be joining me?
Yeah, I should be, yeah.
Okay, guys, well, it's great to be on, and we'll see you again at 10 o'clock.